Well, welcome back to Tea with Sue. I'm Sue Paulson, your magnificence mentor. It's Friday. The garbage trucks are emptying. I can hear them outside. I hope they'd be done before I started, but anyway, I couldn't bear to shut my patio door because the sun is beaming in and it's lovely, fresh spring air. So I'll just let them do their thing and hopefully the sound won't distract. By the way, if you're enjoying Tea with Sue, I wanted to make sure you knew that there are more Tea with Sue episodes on my YouTube channel. That's it, just Sue Paulson. Or you can download the Magnificence Mentor, my free app from either iTunes or Google Play. And you'll find lots of content. I have magnificence moments as well as Tea with Sue. There's even Frivolicious Friday. So there's lots of fun in the app as far as the videos, and there's articles for reading, anything that just might lead you closer and closer to believing in magnificent you. All right. Yesterday, it was one of those serendipitous moments where up popped on my YouTube feed a talk on mindfulness. And the guy's name was John, oh dear, Zinn is his last name. I can't remember. Sorry. I will find that out for you and let you know. Anyway, John has a mindfulness focus on life. And I was so intrigued because I thought back to many years ago when I was teaching study skills. And one of the chapters was called Be Here Now. It was about focused attention. And it was cute because there was a video that went along with it. And one young man was so frustrated because he said, ever since I learned the concept of be here now, I realized that I'm hardly ever here. Well, you might be able to resonate with that because how often does this marvelous mind that we have just wander off and take us away from whatever it is that we had planned to focus on in that second, in that moment? Well, I have this wonderfully mind-wandering mind that just goes all kinds of places in heartbeat. And of course, I have a little bit of a magpie personality, so bright, shiny objects just all of a sudden I'm looking over here, and you know that old joke about squirrel. Your attention gets veered away. So what's the problem anyway? Why don't we just let our minds wander? Well, mindfulness is the opposite of sleepwalking through life. So think about how many times you just hit the autopilot button and you just do things automatically. Now, our bodies do things automatically, and that's great. We don't have to think about breathing. We don't have to think about our heart beating. We don't have to focus on our bodies digesting our food. That's just all done. So it's on autopilot, and thank goodness for that, because if that's what we had to be focused on second by second, we wouldn't be doing anything else. So that's good. However, with the mind focus and the mindfulness focus, too often in our day-to-day routine, our mind will just go on in some direction, and our actions will be just automatic. So we have these routines, right? And our habits come from repeating something over and over and over again. So it's good to get in the habit of brushing your teeth every day. So, but how often do you find your mind just taking a little trip and you're not really focusing on brushing your teeth? So maybe you don't get the back ones very good. Or maybe now what I do sometimes is I'm doing the whole multitasking thing, right? So while I'm brushing my teeth, I'm thinking, oh, well, I better go pick out my outfit for today. So I'll wander into the closet with the toothbrush hanging from my mouth. I'm not brushing my teeth at that point because it's not that easy. And so as I'm picking stuff out and using both hands, there it is hanging from my mouth. And what can inevitably happen is toothpaste drips on the front of me. And I'm going, oh, well, So then I shift my focus back. Okay, finish brushing your teeth. And what about being mindful of when you are brushing? Are you getting every tooth? When you floss, are you flossing every tooth? So it's to be paying attention to what you're doing when you're doing it. Well, why would that be important? One reason I think is because it heightens the senses that we bring to that experience. So think of having this glorious breakfast. I love berries, raspberries and strawberries and blackberries. So if I make pancakes and pile the berries on, and then I usually put yogurt along with that, well, the visual feast is pretty amazing, first of all. And then the taste, that first taste, if I savor the scent of the breakfast, the feel of the berries in my mouth, the taste buds activated in all ways, the bit of sour in the raspberry and the sweet of the strawberry, and blackberries have their own texture and so on. It's pretty glorious. Now, that wars wanting to just experience breakfast bite by bite battles with my desire to read when I'm eating, because I love to read, I live alone, and it seems a little bit tedious to just sit there and focus on breakfast. so so then of course I go on autopilot when I'm eating, as I'm turning the pages, as I'm reading, and absorbed in something else. Well, that's kind of a shame, because I just took away the pleasure that I had just had because I'm wanting to focus on two different things at the same time. And of course, that isn't actually possible. So think about paying attention to your attention. Where is it? Now, the other part of the whole focused attention and mindfulness is the joy that can happen when we're really living in the present moment. Now, I saw a plaque many, many years ago that said, regrets from the past and dreams of the future consume life. The magic of living is here and now. So let's think about it for a moment. How often is your mind focused on what's gone on in the past? So whether it was a pleasurable thing or not so pleasurable or whatever, so many of our moments in a day are spent supposedly in the past, but actually we're not in the past. We've brought the past to the present moment. So we're still living in the moment. We're just not mindful that we've just pulled whatever was in the past and brought it right here. Now let's think about that from the point of suffering. So if, for example, you had a bad experience and it comes to mind and you start focusing on it, so you bring that memory right into the present moment. And guess what? You suffer all over again. You relive whatever the pain of that, whatever the frustration, whatever the negative feelings that were of that happened as a result of that. And here you're living it right in this second. Well, how many times do we do that? Because we won't let go. We won't set that aside or resolve whatever that was going on that was so painful. And but it just flits into our mind. Something triggers maybe, and it could be a sight or a sound or a smell of something. And as a kid, going into the dentist's office, and I guess it was the scent of what they used to freeze or drill, or I don't know what it was. But I got so that I didn't like going to the dentist. I found it very painful. It was not a good experience for me. And so for years and years and years after that, when I go into it, any dentist office, even as an adult, even though technology had changed and I had a good dentist and it wasn't so much discomfort, then I'd smell the smell of the dentist office and it would trigger some of those old memories, and I'd relive them and I'd suffer some more. And at some point I took hold of that and I said, no, this is a new day. This is not happening right in this moment. This was something old that happened way back when. And I relegated it to the past so that in such a way that it didn't trigger me in the same way anymore. So we have lots of things from our past that can impede our enjoyment of right now, what's going on right in this moment. Now let's switch to the future, because we do a lot of futurizing as well, right? We do pasteurizing and we do futurizing. Well, there's something totally wonderful about envisioning a future that you're wanting to move towards. I mean, and how brilliant that our minds can go directly into, wow, that's something that I'm striving for, that I would really like, that would make my life just wonderful. And we envision that. And so, of course, the whole focus on goals to give you something to work towards, to give you something to strive for. There's not a thing wrong with that in doing that. The thing to recognize is that dream is actually happening right now, because you brought the future right into your present. Where the challenge is when you look at that future as well, when I get that, if only I had that. And it's that, well, I don't have it now. And so then we spend a whole lot of time kind of a little bit frustrated because, well, I don't have that now, and I don't think I can be happy until I get there. And what happens? We get there and we go, okay, that didn't make me as happy as I thought it was going to be. So money benchmarks are kind of that way. Oh, well, if I had $5,000 in my bank account, oh, I'd be really happy. And you get the 5,000 and you go, well, that's not quite enough. And so then there's some discontent around that. And yet you were sure you were going to be so happy because you got that. And so then, well, no, 10,000 would be better. And so you go back to striving and struggling and whatever to make that dream a reality. Well, again, it takes us right out of the present. And so we keep delaying the satisfaction or the joy in life because we're not where we think we ought to be. And man, that's suffering. That's hell on earth as far as I'm concerned. And of course, you know me, I'm all about creating heaven on earth right here, right now, in this moment. So what would be heaven to you? Well, what gives you, when you think about, so I know when I focus on, oh, it'd be so nice to have so much more money, and I analyze that, I say, well, what does money give me? So it's not the money as such. It's, what is it? Well, for me, it's a feeling. And one of the biggest feelings is a sense of freedom. If I had X amount of dollars, I'd feel more free. So if I take it to the next level, then I think, well, how could I feel free in this moment right now before I even achieve that goal? Because inevitably I know that what I set my mind to um, as a man thinketh, I think was it As a Man Thinketh, or Napoleon Hill? One of them said, what man, I think, oh no, it was James Allen from As a Man Thinketh. What man can achieve and believe, he can, no, what man can, oh well, the phrase is just gone for me. Can believe, perceive and believe, he can achieve. So if you can think about it and you can believe in it, then you can achieve it. Well, so anything's possible, right? But what about right this moment? What could I achieve? What can I think about? Can I think about freedom in a different way? Can I think about happiness in a different way? What makes me happy right in this moment? Well, you know me, right? A sip of my favorite Earl Grey tea, I'm happy, right? Just before I came on the Zoom feed, two Canada geese landed on the roof of the building right across from me. Well, it's unusual for Canada geese to land on a roof. Usually they'll land on the ground after they've flown, or they'll land in the water somewhere or whatever. Well, here these two geese are profiled against the backdrop of the lovely blue sky and the sunshine beaming down. I took a picture. I took a moment and I said, wow, this is worth my attention. So I focused on what was there in front of me and snapped a couple of shots that I was quite happy with. Well, it was a simple thing and it made me happy. But I was mindful of wanting to do things in that moment that would bring me joy, that would bring me pleasure. And it did. So this is the whole thing about mindfulness. It's very much a learned thing. Our You may have sat in a classroom as a youngster and the teacher is saying, pay attention, but nobody taught you how to pay attention. They didn't teach you how to focus. And I can remember doing an exercise with, you would take a passage that you would read, and you would have a pencil in your hand, and as you're reading, every time you notice, so this was really, you really had to focus. Every time you noticed your mind wandering or something distracted you in any way, shape, or form, you put a little pencil mark right at that point of reading. And the idea was you would read for a minute. So you'd set the timer and read for a minute. And then at the end of the minute, you would count up your pencil marks. Well, I was astonished at how many times I wasn't focused on what I was reading, that a noise outside or a thought that popped into my head at that point took my attention away from whatever it is I was focused on or meant to be focused on. So then the second part of the exercise was to say, okay, if you got 21 pencil marks in a minute, can you reduce that by focusing differently, by focusing more? And then you keep doing that until you had no pencil marks, that you could actually read for a whole minute without being distracted. So try that out if you want to, because it's an eye opener. I didn't think I would be taken off track because I love to read, but it was interesting how many times I got distracted. So that's what I wanted to share with you today in talking about mindfulness. It's such an important piece of living in the now, because that's really all we have. We don't know if we're going to have the next moment to enjoy. And I certainly don't want to be on my deathbed, 5 seconds away from transitioning and having regrets, saying, oh, I wished I'd have done, or I wished I'd have paid more attention, or I want to go out having said, wow, I lived my life. Man, that was quite a ride. And look at all the spills, chills, thrills, and everything that went on. And the joys that I brought into my life because I took the time to smell the flowers. I took the time to focus on a child's laughter. I took the time to give myself the gift of the beauty around me and the people in my life whom I cherished. I paid attention when we were talking, or I paid attention when we were together. So take this week to focus on mindfulness. I think it will propel you forward to an appreciation of not only your life, but yourself, and how much joy you can add from a second to second, moment to moment basis. You know you can do this because you're that magnificent. Have a glorious weekend, my dear friends, and we'll see you next week.